In the darkness of the endless nights, between the stars, I find my way, lost in space.
Well, today I have the pleasure of speaking with the award-winning writer, producer, and director, Kit Wilson, a talented film writer who transitioned from being an accomplished novelist to crafting screenplays and directing short films. Kit has written 12 feature scripts across various genres and has produced 12 short films that have been screened in over 180 international festivals. Currently, he's in pre-production for his 13th short film, Missing Hearts, a unique sci-fi project. Welcome to the Downing Cut, Mr. Kit Wilson. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very, very well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to share my experiences because it's such a small community up here that it's really important that we all network.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this, so people would get to know each other, because we know each other by name, but I don't remember if I ever met you in person. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you're just like, oh yeah, I know that person, but do I know them? And so I thought this would be a great format to kind of break things down and get to know who you are and everything. And so I have a bunch of questions I'd like to ask you and just kind of get to know you and round this. And we'll talk about some of the awards, what's happening. I know you just put something on Facebook, so we'll bring that up as well. What shifted you from writing novels to screenwriting?
Well, it wasn't an overnight process. I got out of advertising agencies after a 30-year career in LA and decided, okay, I'm free. I'm going to write because that's what I really enjoy doing. And so I wrote 5 books and we're selling them on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. But although they were doing well, I just wasn't getting the rewards I'd hoped I would get. You know, a person buys my book and they go off into their library, their room, and they read it, and I don't have no feedback whatsoever. So I decided, I'm going to try screenplays, because I'm a very visual person anyway, coming out of the ad agency business. So I thought, I'll give it a try and see if I can't transition my words into images. And so it took me about 2 years to really get comfortable with the format change, because it's such a dramatic change, and you just can't dive into it feet first right away. So I took some seminars. I got I went to some master classes, and finally decided, okay, I'm comfortable with the formatting and I'm comfortable with the flow of the story. So I jumped in and started writing, and I wrote 12 feature screenplays. And I wasn't sure which genre I wanted to focus on. So I did sci-fi, thriller, I did drama, I did true story, I did teen market one time for the Disney Channel. So after that was finished, I got a rep in Beverly Hills that approached me through LinkedIn and said she wanted to rep my work. So I had realized by this time, after a couple of years up here, that my connections with Los Angeles had been broken. I wasn't being able to communicate as well as I thought I would be up here. So I thought, well, she's going to carry the water for me, so I'll let her go. I signed a contract with her for a year, and so for a year I continued to write, and at the end of the year realized that she hadn't gotten a single script read by anybody. And I decided, you know what? I'm so passionate about getting my words on screen, I'm just going to do a short. So I did a short, and using local talent from Seattle, Tacoma, and it was very rewarded for that experience. So I put it on the film festival circuit, and lo and behold, about halfway through the circuit year, it had garnered like 20 different awards and stuff. So I thought, well, that's a good start. I still want to, do my features. But as the time went by, I realized that it took me about a year from the time I decided to do a short to the time I actually got one in the can and stuck it on the film circuit. So with that in mind, I would network with people, Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, all over to try and see if I could coalesce a team around a story so that by the time the end of the year was over, I could put it on the circuit and it would get, a new life. So 12 festivals later, 181 events later, I'm about to shoot my 13th, and I'm on my second manager. I signed a 2-year contract with her. That'll be up in October. And one of the reasons I signed with her was that she had offices in LA, Atlanta, New York, London. I thought, okay, here's a person who's serious about repping work. So here I am, I'm looking at October deadline and haven't got a single feature read anywhere.
Wow.
So that doesn't discourage me. I just have to keep plugging on and realizing that the tumult that's going on in Hollywood right now is, hard to decipher. I'm hearing from people that have moved from here down there and trying to make it down there, and they're having to weather the storm. And I'm beginning to realize as the pieces start breaking off the Hollywood system and floating out to Atlanta, floating out to New Orleans, floating out to New Mexico, that Hollywood's not going to be the same anymore. But I really feel for the below the line people that need that income and can't just pick up and move anywhere. But things are shaking up. So consequently, I'm networking with some people down there that are fiercely independent and fiercely believe that the independents have a voice. We may not, be at Cannes, but we still are in the film festivals, and we're just going to have to, push the train up the hill on our own.
Why are you have so many different genres ranging from drama to science fiction? How do you approach writing across those diverse genres? And then also, do you have a favorite? Is there one that you're more drawn to?
After I finished that exercise of writing, I think it was 8 to begin with or 9 to begin with, I began to realize that I was really honed in on period pieces. I was really honed in on costumes, the sets, the historical events were going. I really felt comfortable doing that. So it was kind of a process that I went through, and I didn't want to commit to sci-fi or drama or true story until I finished that series of features scripts. But once I was through and started concentrating on my shorts and realizing I was inflecting more of my passion into the historical period pieces, and whether they were true story, which I've written a bunch of them in a feature format, or short, which I've done as well. I just felt super comfortable with that. And so I've kind of landed on that space right now.
I did notice watching a couple of your films, there's a tone of a sentimental feeling that comes across. And I've noticed that about those. Is that on purpose to kind of give that vibe?
Well, I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. And so I was just at the tail end by the 60s of the disintegration of the Hollywood golden age. And so I was saturated with really good quality films for years. And, the event films, you would go to a theater, you'd have an intermission. It would be a big deal. So I kind of respected that way of storytelling. So when I approached my work, I wanted to make sure that I was trying to engage audiences in the same way without the big budgets. And so if there's a bit of nostalgia or a bit of sentimentality there that's an homage to the past, it's because I really believe that back then you could tell a story and engage an audience. And so consequently, I've learned that my younger audiences that are watching my projects tend to suspend their disbelief when they're watching my projects because the costumes are right, the automobiles are right, the settings right, the storyline's right. So they're willing to suspend their disbelief and engage. Whereas if I just wrote a contemporary story, they may be looking at their cell phone while they're back there in the back of the theater. And so I want to immerse them in those periods. They may not always identify with those periods, but at least so they realize that, hey, things were different back then. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, your work really emphasizes on strong female leads and plot twists that challenge their self-worth. Can you discuss your motivation for this focus and how you develop these characters?
Yeah, I started writing. My first couple of books were fictional and non-fictional about World War II, and it involved male leads. But I wrote a true story book that became a screenplay about an event in the '60s that took place with two airline stewardesses, flight attendants, what they call them now. But after that experience, I realized that I could really empathize with a female experience in terms of their level of experiencing reality. Males tend to be two-dimensional. They've got the outside facade, and then they've got the inside that they don't want to reveal a whole lot. Women have all these multi-layers, and I found that much more fascinating to put a female lead in all these precarious positions, and how would she get over the hurdles and get through the morass of a maze with her different ways of approaching reality.
Now, since 2016, you've written and produced and directed 12 short films. What unique challenges do short films present, and then how do you overcome them?
Well, fortunately, it wasn't planned, but it just turned out the way that a year would separate my films, consequently, sequentially. So I would, write the script and start networking to gather a crew and cast, and with the idea in mind that at the end of the year, we'd have something in the can, we'd have something ready for festivals. So, it was a slow process of attracting the right talent, attracting the right interested people, and getting them on board. And at a certain point, you start having table reads, you start having, very relaxed rehearsals or whatever, just to discuss the project. But the closer we got to shooting, that's when the rubber hit the road. And I enjoyed the collaborative process so much that I really didn't feel like it was work. I really didn't feel like it was stress. Yeah, there was a lot of energy going on a set, but it was positive energy, and I really enjoyed that. And I think because I came from a professional advertising agency background in LA, I was used to working with professionals. If I wanted to pick up a phone and call a professional photographer, he'd be in a studio in 2 days. If I wanted to pick up a phone and call a talent agency and get 5 models in a studio, it would be done. So I was used to that kind of level of professionalism, and I expect that from the people up here, even though they may not be as qualified. They understand the level of professionalism I'm asking for, and so consequently, they give it, and I'm very proud of them. Yeah.
Yeah. You work with film talent from Tacoma, Seattle, and Olympia. How do you foster an effective collaboration on your projects?
Well, actually, I started out working with Seattle Tacoma talent, and both crew and talent. But I think it was after like the ninth short film, I was contacted by Olympia Film Group, the only film group, and they wanted to do an interview, a podcast interview. So I met them in Tacoma, and we spent about an hour and a half in the interview. And I was so impressed with the people that interviewed me. The questions were outstanding. And I thought, I owe them a visit. So I went down the next week for their last Wednesday of the month meeting. And wow, there's like 25 people around this big table. And everybody from actors to directors, DPs, you name it. And I had bought a script with me at the time to have them table read. So
Nice.
they read the script. They all gave me an applause. They said they wanted to be a part of it. The next thing I know, most of my crew is from Olympia. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a very rewarding experience, and it opened up my eyes that guess what? There's other folks in other towns that are willing to collaborate and make it happen.
That's awesome. And I did notice there's quite a few cast members that I recognize that have been in several of your projects. Is there a reason why you keep recasting them, or is it that they're just up for the audition?
It's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another, because there are times where I'll finish a script and then start thinking, what face do I place with this character? What talent do I try to use for the story? And more often than not, there's times I go back to a particular actress or actor to rework, a story for me, because they showed me their range. They showed me their ability to engage my characters. So rather than take a chance on an unknown, and I've had people, send me audition tapes, and some are good, some are bad. So I guess it was a trust factor too. I trusted these people to, execute my story well, and I wasn't willing at some point to take a risk if the vibe wasn't there. Yeah.
So, from a director's perspective, and also the writer, because you've written your scripts, when you get an audition tape, can you describe what is it that it makes it good and what is it that makes it bad?
I'm looking for composure a lot. I'm looking for how comfortable they are in front of a camera, and it doesn't matter if it's well lit or what's going on, as long as they're comfortable, facing the camera and delivering whatever kind of lines they want to deliver. And I'm just like studying their face. Their face is a roadmap of their emotions, and if I see genuine emotions in that face and a response to the words, then I'm intrigued. I'm interested. But there are times where they're great, but they just don't fit into the cubbyhole of the character that I'm looking for. But I still have to give them props for their talent. And so rather than judge people what they wear or their hair or anything, I'm looking for first composure and then delivery. And I think there's a calm inner strength of composed actors that you can feel when you meet them. And it's kind of intrinsic with a quality talent that you just know when you shake their hand, look in their face, they got it together.
That's awesome. All right. That's our audience. You got to know, listen to what the man is saying. So, your upcoming short film, Missing Hearts, is a science fiction project. Can you share some of the insights about this film and what makes it unique?
Yeah, I haven't touched a science fiction genre of short film since I did a period piece called A Twisted Time, which is more contemporary story up in Port Angeles, but the main character goes back in time. So that was kind of science fiction. And then one of my first shorts was with Tony DuPay and David Hogan in Drowned World, but that was kind of a very closed space science fiction story. So this is completely different. And I just dived onto my computer and decided, I wonder what it would be like for a female astronaut to be stranded, on a deserted planet and have no one to communicate with except a discarded robot that's sitting in a little tin hut who's been left there for 250 years. And she's, through the story, she's communicating with the rescue team that's coming for her. But in the meantime, things are evolving with her and this robot. And so it's a unique opportunity to see how they evolve from the beginning to the end in terms of their relationship and honesty and, any kind of humanity that can come out of a machine and any kind of empathy that can come out of a fairly strong female lead. Yeah.
And who's the lead?
That's Chantel Frizzle. She's a South African actress who's been up here. She's done a bunch of local things, and she's perfect for the part. She sent me her audition tape, and I thought, bang, right on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what does your creative process look like from the initial idea to the final product?
Wow. Well, before I even hit the keyboard and write it, I do my research. And I want to make sure that whatever slang language I'm using, whatever costuming I'm using, automobiles I'm using, sets and locations I'm using, is going to feel comfortable for everybody. The cast, the crew, and then ultimately it'll be up to me to decide, if it all comes together. But and I've been pretty hands-on about costuming, props, locations, sets, so that once I step onto the set, I'm pretty comfortable that we're going to get where we want. The footage that we should get in the camera is going to be what I want. And I guess I'm hoping that that confidence radiates out to the rest of the crew, and they realize, they're on the right track, because I do storyboards and I do shot lists and that kind of thing. But really, when you step on the set, you just kind of toss them over your shoulder and we're going to go for it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's basically, you've been thinking about it for so long and your storyboards are in your head. You have the vision and you're like, okay, let's go. We know. Do you hand your storyboards out to the crew and the actors as well, so they can
Yeah,
see
my
it?
DP, now my costume designer and my set people, but because this is the first time I've had to actually build a set. I usually use Airbnbs that have a period look for my stories, and they work fine, both exterior and interior. But this is the first time I've actually had to. Wow, we're going into the studio. We're going to build a science fiction set. So we're going to use a combination of miniatures and full scale sets. But yeah, it's a challenge. But I also do a lot of research in terms of the look of the film. I'll go through and I'll try and get color palettes from different films that I think are going to work with my color palette. I go and watch films that the director I respect and the way he looks through a camera I respect, and I start picking up ideas about how I want to pick up my shots and make them look like that, so that when I'm actually on the set, we're going for those kinds of shots. Yeah.
What are you building your set at Harbor Studios?
No, we chatted with them, but it just didn't happen. So we've got a studio in Tacoma that's got a large space that we're going to be using. It's downtown Tacoma. There's a couple of doors down from one of the theaters. But yeah, we'll be there starting at the 24th of August.
It's awesome. How do you maintain the creativity and originality in your work? And then also, I mean, looking at your films, they're very polished compared to many independent films. And I have it's probably number one, what kind of camera do you use? And then what's your relationship with David Patterson as the editor?
Well, David was in with me on the first 10 films. He approached me on my third film as a BTS shooter, and he said, can you give me a chance? I'd like to shoot one of your projects. And he edited a couple of my earlier projects and cleaned them up. And I thought, well, he knows what he's doing. So I set him behind a camera and let him shoot the next 8 films of mine.
Oh, so he's the DP as well.
Yeah, he was a DP, but he also edited my films. So he had a unique possibility or position to look through the lens of the camera and decide in his head how it was going to be edited too, which was a huge bonus for us. And consequently, he took the files as soon as we were finished and wrapped to his edit bay and started editing. So it was kind of a seamless transition, and it was a very enjoyable experience. But he moved to the East Coast. And so after 30 years waiting up in Bellevue, he moved to like Virginia, North Carolina. And that was it. So I've been using Eric Biss for my last 2 films. He's going to be working on this film as well. And he also approached me way back when I started shooting as a BTS shooter. And, he's worked on Red and Sony. He worked on a bunch of different films or cameras, but he's a very personable, easygoing guy. And that's the kind of personality I need to work with me. We set out pre-production talking about the look of the film and talking about, the flow of the film. But the meantime, when we're on the set actually executing the film, we're bouncing ideas off of each other at the same time. So it's a super collaborative experience.
Now, you've gained traction in Los Angeles in the film industry. What strategies have you used to get noticed, and what kind of advice would you give to others trying to do the same thing?
Well, I think, location. I had no idea that moving from Los Angeles to this area, Gig Harbor, that I really would be disconnected from what was going on in Los Angeles. And that's just the honest truth. And so what I've done in the last 12 years is constantly try to network with people down there, whether they're actors, directors, writers, and swimming upstream, downstream in the Los Angeles environment, trying to get a feel of what's going on. And I recommend getting a film in a film festival. That's your calling card. A short film is the best way to get your calling card out there and start networking as much as you possibly can. And as your films get, in Los Angeles, as your films get in Chicago, New York, wherever, they're going to start having a ripple effect. And that's what you want. And, you may not be able to fly to Cannes, you may not be able to go to Berlin, but if your films are screening there, or if your films are being attended by people who do go to those other festivals, there's a good chance that they're going to notice your film or notice your work, and you'll eventually cross paths. So, yeah.
And your name keeps popping up, right? And they're like, okay, I know this guy makes good stuff. I want to see what he's got this time.
Yeah.
So beyond Missing Hearts, what other projects are you excited about? And are there any new genres or themes that you're eager to explore?
Yeah, I'm actually, I just finished a pitch deck for a historical true story drama/thriller that I had to go through a bunch of different rewrites, but it got more and more polished. And it's already been in like 10 festival competitions and won laurels. But I continue to polish it. Now I got a pitch deck, and I crossed paths with the producer last week in LA who is started out in the publishing company or publishing world in New York. And she got early on the bandwagon where you get an IP from a best-selling book, take it to Hollywood, and start packaging talent with it and directors with it. And pretty soon you're going to the studios, knocking on the doors because you got a pre-sold package. And so I was on a phone call with her, and she's, I sent her some of my log lines, and she says, well, what about this? And it happened to be this period piece. And I was explaining it to her, and she says, well, send me a pitch deck, and I'll take it with me as I'm going, shopping and knocking on doors. And I said, by all means, yeah. But you just have to continually network, because as a writer, your first love is writing, and to direct, that's great as well. But to have to continually knock on doors, continually network, and pound the drum, that's just a necessary evil. Yeah.
Just seeing your work, I mean, I constantly see a flow of streams of awards from you constantly coming down on the stream. And the one thing that I've noticed about your work is your posters are phenomenal.
Thank you.
Do you make those? Are you a graphic artist?
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
That's my advertising background.
That's right.
I was doing advertising for Neiman Marcus, Southwest Airlines, big budget clients. And once they turned me loose on their graphics, I was very comfortable. And so it's kind of like a crossover from, okay, now I'm promoting myself, I'm promoting my films. Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you have a desire? Like, let's say a script gets picked up in LA and they say, okay, we want to make this into a feature. Do you have a desire to direct it at all?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think when I walk off this 13th set, I'm ready. There's so many short films you can make before you got to say, guess what? I'm ready for a feature. And so I understand it might be an indie, it might be a low budget indie, but I'm ready. And because I just don't want to be one of these guys that finishes a script and hands it off to a studio, takes the money and walks to the bank. No, that's not where I'm coming from. Yeah. Yeah.
What about here locally? Have you decided to make a feature at all in that aspect?
It's the old story about money. Where do you get funding? And I've done 2 indie crowdfunding projects over the years, and it's like too many people have gone to that well, and it's dry as a bone, and you're not going to get anything out of it. And meanwhile, I hear about these angel investors, but they kind of fly away when you start looking for them. So it's tough. I really feel sorry for Orson Welles, because I highly respect him. I've always admired him, and he wound up dying in a little, walk-up office over a typewriter, trying to write some more in his scripts. And he kept complaining, I can't make my movies until I get money. So he'd go out and he'd do some bit parts on a film and get some money, and he'd shoot some more footage. But that was his dying day on a typewriter, trying to complete a project because he didn't have enough money.
How did you fund your past projects?
Well, I funded them all.
Okay, personal.
Yeah, it was out of my pocket, but I reached the point where that was it. I had to start asking people to, do deferred payment, because I do plan to make it right. But until I get sponsors, and we are working on sponsors for Missing Hearts, so there's some light at the end of the tunnel. But if the money's not there, then the camera doesn't roll.
Wow. Do you ever make cameos in your own films?
No.
That's it. Straight answer. No.
I'm comfortable behind the lens, and that's it.
Yeah. What other challenges have you found? I mean, obviously, it's kind of that stepping stone. You make your first film and you learn lessons, and then you make your second one, you keep on learning. What is probably the most common lesson that you've learned that you've always kept in the back of your head? Like, oh, I'm going to make this one better and do this.
Timing, respecting the clock, respecting the people that are on the set and the clock. And that's where a good AD comes in, because he's going to tap you on the shoulder when you're running overtime on a specific scene, or take a little bit too long to light a set. That's really important, because you don't want to push people away because you're going over the clock, and you want to make sure that you get the shots you need. So it's really challenging to work in an effective manner, in a timely manner, so that you do get the shots you need, you get the performances you need, you move on, you set up another shot, so forth and so on. So little by little, you learn, okay, I've got to take it's in the can, move on. I don't need to sit there like Stanley Kubrick for 100 takes. No, not there.
What where could people find you? Where do they find your films, your trailers?
Actually, all my films are in a catalog right now because I was negotiating with a distributor, but he wanted to tie my films up for 11 years. And I said, no way, Jose.
Wow.
I'll sign a contract for 5 years and that's it. So it just kind of died right there. So they're cooling their heels on a shelf. But, I do let the film festivals have access to them, and that's where they're playing right now. And I think in the last 5 years, I've rented the Blue Mouse Theater in Tacoma and screened my films that were new there for the general public, and of course my cast and crew that participated in the production of them. So that was a very rewarding experience for them and their families. And yeah, if my festival films weren't making it to Poolsboro, weren't making it to Port Townsend, but they were making it to Chicago or New York, at least they got to see him at the Blue Mouse in Tacoma.
Yeah. I have one last question is, what is your favorite film technology? It's camera, lights, whatever you use for production.
Probably the camera, because I spent so many years in the ad agency business looking over a photographer's shoulder on studio sets and location sets. And it's almost like we were twins, enmeshed. He would set up the shot, look through the lens and say, not quite, let's move it here, let's light it this way. So I think it's the camera, because I respect people like Steven Spielberg and other directors that can visualize a story from first frame to last, and it's all up here, and they can really talk to a DP and they can get it going. So yeah, if you don't have it in the lens, you're not going to get it.
What kind of camera are you using?
Oh, well, Eric uses a Dragon, or he uses a Sony.
Sony, okay.
Yeah,
Sony or Red?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking across my office and I noticed this poster. It was one of the first posters that I ever did for Missing Hearts. And it was before I wrote the script. So
oh, interesting. So
yeah,
you
I
did the poster first.
Yeah. So I had no first line of a script or anything when I did this. And I think after I was, pondering this poster for so long, I started to getting ideas, and I realized that's what I did when I was in ad agencies as well. When I would be handed a budget for a client, one of the first things I do is I'd start studying all of his competition and taking notes about what the competition was doing as opposed to what he was doing. And then I started thinking about, branding and position in the marketplace. So I start thinking of visual things that would take them, whether it was a service or a product or whatever, in the marketplace to stand out. So I just became a problem solver based on visual imagery. So the same thing goes to my screenwriting. A lot of times my screenwriting just starts from an idea of an image, and what goes on behind the image, what was going on to make that image. So a lot of folks ask me, where I get my ideas, and the accurate thing is I just see pictures or photographs or something that inspires me, and it just starts happening. So yeah.
What software do you use to make your posters?
I start out with Photoshop, and sometimes I bring it over to Quark Express, which is old school, but that's what I used back in the ad agency days. And then I wind up finishing off in Photoshop again.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, just the posters themselves sell it for me. I'm just like, oh, this looks interesting. I got to see this. I'm curious, what goes into your pitch deck then? Are you doing a lot of images?
Yes. Yeah. My pitch deck is kind of like a slow motion video. It's I don't know if you're familiar. The old slideshows used to come in and go out on a screen, but mine kind of flow in from the top and flow out, and they basically fill the screen. And the imagery is everything from cast, budgeting, locations, stuff like that. But it's a visual experience. Yeah.
Wow. Now, what you said, you have some scripts that you're working on right now for the future.
Yeah, I just finished the pitch deck for the Polished project that is a period piece, true story, and then I have two other scripts. One that is kind of a slash horror thriller that takes place back in the 1930s in Oklahoma, and I think I wrote it's almost like a treatment. It was like a 60 to 70 page treatment. I sent it off to my reader who does all my script reading and gives me notes. And she wrote back and gave me some very good notes. And so I'm on my second draft of that and feeling it's much more polished than it was before. And interesting imagery there because it's told through a 16-year-old girl who's a high school journalist, and she's writing for a high school newspaper. And so all these events are going on, and she's just plugged into making sure that she remembers and writes down everything she sees what's going on. And yeah, small town Oklahoma. And then the other one is a futuristic science fiction story, and I wrote a very short treatment for that years ago, and I actually did a trailer for for the fun of it with Dave Patterson. And the premise is that in modern contemporary time, there's a young mother with two children who's approached by some very bad people that to go back in time, and she's to carry back with her $2 million. And she's going to place one bet in one casino for $2 million. And the proceeds from that she'll take back to the future. And meanwhile, the future will have already changed because these guys got what they wanted. She altered the future. So they kidnap her kids. So she has to go back in time to get her kids back. So.
Wow. That's intense. Do you come up with the title after, or do you have a title already kind of hovering in your head?
No, I don't usually because it's too confining. And so I'll write, maybe several chapters or maybe even the whole thing, and then start playing around with titles. But yeah, and it's interesting that sometimes the titles make sense to me, but they don't make sense to other people. So you have to compromise when you're actually, polishing it and making it more, palatable to an audience. So there's compromise involved. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. How do you feel about AI entering into this arena? Both acting, from writing and directing, and all the tools that people are using.
Yeah, it's a new experience that's impacting media in all ways. I've tried out some AI just to see how up to date or how up to speed it really is, and I sent off one of my scripts, award-winning script by the way, to an AI script reader, and the notes I got back were okay. But what I noticed at the end of the reading of the notes was it didn't go into any of the emotional feelings that the characters had, didn't go into any kind of interrelational experiences with the characters. Gone. It wasn't there. So, if you're trying to read a script, those things have to be there. So I thought, it's not working. But then there's a gal down in LA. She was a well-known TV actress and part of a sitcom for years, and I can't think of her name right now, but she's come out in huge defiance of AI, and she's always posting on Facebook about what's going on with AI. And lo and behold, I think it was like last week or this week, there's a couple of AI films that are in festivals down in Los Angeles. And I was reading, I was reading responses from the people that actually saw the screenings, and they said, man, there was very little motion. It was like, stick puppets. And there was hardly any emotional interaction with the characters at all. And sure, it was visually kind of pretty, but no substance, no humanity. And I don't know. I was surprised that they actually got into festivals, but yeah. So I had mixed feelings about it. The idea that during the strike, the studios were going to go take AI and write all their scripts, and they were going to take AI and replace all their actors, was pretty blusterous of them, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But I think that because of the writer's strike, they were able to at least draw some kind of line in the sand and say, guess what? This is our bread and butter. You can't do this to us. And hopefully it won't happen. But, I think there's a younger element that's in the filmmaking genre that are trying to embrace it, trying to see if it can't save them some money in production and speed the process along so that they can get their product out of the marketplace fast. But when it comes right down to it, if you go back to the old days when the studio system was, intact, and they were actually making masterpiece films. You could see the difference. They took the time, they took the budget. They polished those projects to the extreme qualities, and the professionalism and the excellence is there. Whereas this new stuff that's coming out of machines, it's not happening.
Yeah. That's a good point with that streamlining humanity into your story. And that's like the key component. That's why we go to the movies, to feel something.
Exactly. And if it's not in the script, then how do you expect a reader, much less a director, producer, to inject that into a story? So I was pretty much chuckling when I got the results back from my script that all the humanity was taken out of it. So
wow. What when it comes to like the film community, directing, filmmaking, writing, producing, we're always kind of like, and I speak for this myself, we're always looking for that next level. When is the last level for you? What does success look like? What does it look like when you've actually kind of quote unquote made it? Or is there a point to that point?
I'm not sure there is a point to that, because after 12 years, I haven't broken through the ceiling. I haven't made a feature. And rather than throw in the towel and walk away, I'm just more determined than ever to work with creative people to make it happen. And hopefully, as each film is done and screened in festivals, they get better. I get better. So yes, if I'm finally at a point where I can walk into a feature set and direct it from a script that I've written, that's great. But the reality is, when it's all said and done, and I'm standing in a Q&A session at a festival, I'm looking at either side of me of the cast and the crew that made it happen, and I'm realizing I could never be here without these people standing next to me. And it's all about us, really.
Yeah. Now I know I'm gathering, and this is my assumption. Obviously, what you write is close to your heart. It's dear to you. It sounds like you love directing. You have so many scripts. Are you open to allowing someone else in the indie market to kind of just create something that you wrote?
I'm more than open to talking about it, because I'm not the last word in terms of filmatic decision making, and I think that's the whole idea of collaborative filmmaking, is compromise. As long as you're not compromising too much, you still got your, Ron Howard once said that the director is the keeper of the story. And as long as you keep that story intact, then you should be open to spontaneity, you should be open to different ideas. And by all means, if we can make the product better, I'm all ears. Yep.
Because that's like one of the biggest fears, right? You hand the script over and someone starts picking it apart and going, I want to change this, or I want to change that, or make this modern.
Yeah, I've heard horror stories. I mean, it's called development hell for a reason. And I've heard of scripts going down the pipeline to studio execs coming back with 1 million post-it notes, change this, do that. And you don't have your story anymore. It's just like sharks attack it and cheat it all up. So yeah, it's a challenge. But so it really depends on who's above you making the decisions and how much they're willing to stick to your original material, as opposed to just chewing it to pieces. Yeah.
There's also some fear out there with scriptwriters who submit their script to festivals, and there is a fear that some of their content is going to get stolen.
Yeah.
Have you faced any of that?
No. You can register with the WGA, you can register and copyright it with DC, but the reality is somewhere down the line, if someone wants to steal your IP and do it in a way that they can get away with it, they'll do it. But there's just an ocean of scripts read or scripts written every year, and the idea that someone's going to be picking through all these scripts to try to find an idea or try to find a theme that they're going to steal. No, there's just too much out there, really.
Yeah. How do you feel like when it comes to the competition with the era, the time frame that you're writing for, the 30s, 40s, and 50s, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is there a lot of other varieties of people in competition for that same type of story or same type of era? Or is everything more like, Avengers and Marvel and superheroes and stuff?
Actually, I think Clint Eastwood has done an excellent job of diving into different periods and doing them well. He did The Changeling with Angelina Jolie, which is a really good 1920s Los Angeles story. He did Gran Torino, which is kind of a neat film about that period car and about that period character. And Ron Howard, he's willing to dive back into the past and tackle those kinds of themes and stories. So yeah, I think they're looking for substance, they're looking for quality, and they're looking for originality, and rather than being cookie cutter. It's too easy to be cookie cutter.
Yeah, yeah. I get kind of tired of the remakes that I keep saying. Um, what about speaking to the audience? I've obviously Gen X, millennials. Is what Gen Z out of
Yeah,
things are starting to change. Like, do you feel like your story can speak to those generations as well?
I think so. It depends on their mind and how open they are to experiencing cinema. Because like Marty Scorsese talks about cinema till the cows come home, and I'm totally agree with him that the cinema experience has gone away. Maybe someday it'll come back. But if serious film enthusiasts, whether they're just watchers or they're writers or they're directors, whatever, who are open to cinema, then they're going to watch my work as well as other creatives who are willing to step back in time or try different things, and they'll learn from them. Because the more you watch, the more you learn. And especially if you learn the well-made, well-crafted classics, then wow, you can pick up a whole lot of information. And it's going to be like a film school in your own living room, really.
Yeah. So looking at your past, you started in the advertising agency, writing, doing some directing. Obviously, you had that skill set there, and designing came into place. What about acting? Have you ever been in front of the camera?
No, won't do it. No, I'm totally gun shy when it comes to that. I know that I've read books about directing. I've read that they recommend directors go take acting classes, but since I'm working with my material and I understand the characters really well, if I see it in my actor's face or in my actor's performance, that's all I need.
Yeah.
So that's the satisfaction I get from making films, and to think that I would stand in front of a camera and go to a different place, that's just not me.
That's good. How can other brand new actors or experienced actors, how can they reach out to you? How can they audition for you and get their face in front of you?
It's been interesting because usually I write a short screenplay or even a feature, and I'm looking for faces or personalities to fit into those roles. I'll reach out to the talent agencies in town, and I'll look at their website. I'll look at some faces and say, well, that face might work. This face might work, and I'll contact the agents reps there and say, can I see a reel? And I've been quite surprised to find out that a lot of them don't have reels. They'll say, oh, the director, on my last project hasn't given me the footage yet, or I'm waiting on that, or, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, well, how do you expect me to make any kind of decision if I can't see your performances? So at the very least, I'll ask for, a taped audition and go from there. But I reached out as far as Portland to contact talent agencies to see if I can get some people to step into my characters. And other times, lo and behold, I'll go to a screening of a film and meet other film people, and I'll meet somebody that I think will be perfect for my project. So it's happenstance as well. But I encourage people, and I've had young actresses come up to me and say, where can I get the experience? Where can I get the exposure? And I think Theater Puget Sound is a good place to get signed on to, because once a year, I believe it's once a year, they have this big cattle call, a showcase of their talent. And whether you're in theater or in film, you can see what's available. And I think that's a good place to start. And then I would recommend signing on with a talent agency and getting a reel up on their website so that people can see how you perform. And put your face out there.
That's good advice. I'm surprised that not a lot of people have reels. I'm a little shocked at that.
Yeah, it's not good. I'm good.
They think a photograph is all they need. Here's my photograph, here's my headshot.
No.
So you mentioned TPS. So are they acting as somewhat of like an agent by showcasing people? How does that work?
Well, I believe they have to sign a membership for a year, and then they have a call board that talks about upcoming theatrical performances and possibly upcoming commercial and film projects coming through town. But that one event a year gives people that are interested in seeing new faces or new talent an opportunity to find it, because otherwise you got to go the route that I've gone through. You pick up the phone and you call the talent agencies and go from there. Yeah.
All right. No, I didn't realize you were in Gig Harbor.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm in Bremerton.
Uh-huh. You're a
So we're
neighbor.
neighbors.
Well, and I have to say that living in Gig Harbor, is such a contrast from living next to Los Angeles that I've kind of gotten accustomed to the quiet environment I'm living in. And to get in a car and go to Seattle, or get in a ferry and go to Seattle, it's kind of a challenge. It's kind of culture shock when you hit that city street and you're enmeshed into that energy. So, I probably don't go to enough cocktail, meet and greet groups. I don't probably go to enough networking groups that I should, but it's just that I'm a born introvert. And to think of putting myself out, into those kinds of environments, wow, it's just exhausting. By the time I get out of them, yeah.
Yeah, this is why I'm doing this, because I'm an introvert and I'm in Bremerton, and I know there's been so many social events in Seattle. I'm like, do I really want to go to Seattle? Do I really want to be exhausted?
Oh, man.
Do I really want to be put on the spot and go, what was your name again? I know I know you, but you know what I mean?
Just the whole idea of getting there, finding a place to park, paying for the parking, getting into the crowd. Suddenly you're passing out business cards, you're talking to business, and it's draining. It really is. I'd much rather meet at the end of a festival at a Q&A, someone come up to me and want to talk, or maybe, they have a social event right after the festival, and it's just, maybe 20, 40 people. That's much more comfortable than like hundreds of people. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Have any of your films been to the Gig Harbor Film Festival?
Yeah, let's see. I've had 4 of them so far.
Very nice. Have they turned down any of them?
Yes, they have. They turned down 2 of them this year.
And you're like, hey, I live here.
Yeah. It's strange because there was a gal, Marty Thacker was the director of the Gig Harbor Film Festival for years, and she packed up and moved away, and they reshuffled the management there, and so they've been kind of drawn to the documentaries, and so for the last 3 or 4 years, Gig Harbor Film Festival has been heavy documentaries, which whatever the programmer wants. But the reality is, you should help your local filmmakers too showcase their work. And to be completely shut out after 3 or 4 years of showing my work, I don't know. It is what it is.
Well, that's interesting, because I have a film cousin and we submitted and we got denied. I'm like, we're your neighbors. Why are you denying us?
Yeah, well, I filmed a short film called Twist of Time in Port Townsend, and stayed at the local hotel, at the Palace Hotel, which is a neat 19th century hotel. We filmed inside the hotel. And we had 2 newspapers from Port Townsend on the set, taking pictures and writing stories. So there was some news media there about us being there, and they turned down the film when I submitted it to their festival. So, yeah, go figure.
That makes no sense. That makes no sense. We filmed it here. We have your locale. We have all the journalists taking notes and taking pictures and stuff, and you guys turned down our film. Come on.
Yeah.
At least throw us a bone or something.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the same project is showing in Moscow and showing in Paris and showing in London. And wow, there is no answer for that. So it is what it is.
It's fascinating.
I've gotten more favorable festival response from Vancouver and Portland than I have from Washington State.
Why do you think it's a genre thing?
I have no clue. I really don't. I think that some of these festivals, whether they're brand new or they've been around for a long time, have a very insulated way to program their festival. And they've got either the higher professional programmer that come in and, they usually have a list in their pocket of their 10 favorite films. So whatever festival they've been into before, they're going to pull out their list to make sure that those top 10s get in on the catalog. But so you're dealing with personalities and tastes, and they're totally at their mercy. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think?
When I think I tend to feel sorry for the volunteers that come and participate in the festival, and they put in a lot of hours, greeting people and handing out programs and ushering and stuff, and then to be deprived of local filmmakers' work, that's kind of shortchanging them.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a weird. I'm going to call it a bias. It has to be a bias that's coming across somehow. Um, I never asked, but so you were in LA and you
Mhm.
moved here.
Mhm.
What was the reason for that? Was it because of the city life and the environment?
No, my two oldest sons that are married were up here. And so consequently, my family had fractured by that time. So there wasn't any reason to stay in California anymore. So
Yeah.
we thought, we want to be next to our boys. So we moved up here, and one was in Poolsbo and one was in Tacoma. And so lo and behold, we wound up in Gig Harbor.
Well, Gig Harbor's a nice area.
Yeah,
Would you ever move?
haven't regretted it at all. As a matter of fact, my wife has gone back to California a couple of different times over the years, and gone through the neighborhoods, gone through the different places that we lived, and said, "Well, not going back."
That was my next question. You're not going back.
No.
Yeah, I know there's a few people that will travel down there to do work,
Yeah.
but then they'll come back
Yeah,
and do
yeah,
that.
yeah. And do
Especially,
you know Erin Ray?
sounds familiar.
She's a blonde actress, probably in her late 20s now. Very professional, very talented and poised. She was in two of my films, Remnants and Twisted Time. She was half the year in Marina Del Rey in California and half the year over in Mercer Island. So she kind of gets the best of both worlds. And she networks as well as she can, but, super mellow person. And she's one of the few people that I know of that have been successfully able to jump back and forth and make it happen.
Tangerine.
Yes.
Tangerine, that looks, just from the poster, I'm like, what is that about?
That is a finished feature film, a superhero film. Actually, I wrote back in maybe 5 years ago, and before Wonder Woman ever came about, before any of the Marvel stuff happened, I just thought it was time for a superhero female, but she's flawed. So she only has one superpower, and other than that, she's just basically a kind of a messed up person. She give you a rough log line. She's from a rich family in California that has a well-to-do vineyard, and so she's grown up in that very privileged, excuse me, environment, but has been a rebel and always, jumps on her motorcycle and goes off and does wild things, travels around the world, not really settled. So she finally decides that she's going to get married, and she gets married in her parents' vineyard, and lo and behold, it's kind of like a Kill Bill experience. Her fiance is killed, her parents are kidnapped, and she's had to from the Russian mafia, and she has to avenge them. And so she discovers this superpower because she goes down to New Orleans, and her maid was affiliated with a lot of participants of voodoo and spells and occult things. So she acquires this superpower from them and comes back to California and kicks butt.
I want to see it.
Well, you're welcome to
That's
read
it.
the screenplay by all means.
I want to see it. The thing that caught my eye was just motorcycle. I love motorcycles. So I saw
Uh-huh.
the motorcycle. I'm like, oh, I wonder what this is about.
Yeah, it's an
So-
important part of her story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Is there anything else that you want to bring up for the audience? Let them know. You had some good insight when it comes to reels, some acting, directing. Your writing is amazing. What else?
Well, I'd like to just toss out an invite to anybody that wants to work on my crews, anybody that wants to, audition for my screenplays, to contact me, because I can be only so many places at one time. And, if you're ambitious, if you're passionate, no harm in reaching out to me and see what happens. You never know. But I would like to be able to think that there's a lot more creative people out there that I just haven't crossed paths with, that I'd like to work with, and look forward to it.
I'm sure there's some actors that don't have agents as well.
Through all places, social media, whether I'm on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or Threads, they can contact me, and it's kind of an oblique way to contact me, but they can do that. And if they're sincere and want to talk shop, I'll do it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll definitely put the links in the show notes for you.
Thank you.
Kit, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I hope that this starts a domino effect for you.
I do too. Yeah, and send me an email, and I'll send you the Tangerine script.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot. Take care.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.